What's going on, everyone? Great day here. Chris Osberg, Winding Road Magazine. Today, I have the superhero of pickup trucks. This is the 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor. Take a look at this thing. It is a real-life Tonka truck. First thing you notice is how absolutely striking it is. It's a big truck, but not overdone, not totally bro-dozed, not totally jacked up. It is wide, it is tough, but it is also very functional. Just look at these wide fenders. They've given it the wide body treatment over the regular F-150. As you quickly notice here, most of the cars we review are quite clean and pristine and well detailed. This one, not so much. This one we've had a lot of fun with. It is dirty. This is a condition your Raptor should be in. And it's only fitting that we do our walk around here off of the pavement, because it would be a shame if it didn't get a little dirty. So, being the second generation of the Ford Raptor, it is a muscled up version of the mainstream F-150. Based on the newest version of the F-150, it incorporates many of the functional upgrades that the F-150 itself has received, namely the aluminum body structure that has saved hundreds of pounds over the outgoing version in terms of what the body structure accounts for in the overall weight of the vehicle. We also have huge changes in the powertrain department over the original F-150 Raptor. The original Raptor was available in two V8 trims, the larger of the two being a 6.2 liter unit backed by a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now for this updated Raptor, we have a 3.5 liter EcoBoost, which makes more power and torque through its twin turbochargers than the V8 ever did. So with this new truck, we are at 450 horsepower and a staggering 510 pound-feet of torque, and that's backed by a 10-speed automatic transmission. Yes, that's not a misspeak. 10 speeds. Pretty impressive. Transfer case is also updated. Instead of a simple locking two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive low, we also have the addition of a, quote, all-wheel drive for auto mode that's more user-friendly than the simple locking four-wheel drive transfer case of old. Still have absolutely massive BFG TA KO2 tires on beadlock inspired wheels with a functional or non-functional accent here, which looks like a locking hub of Fords of yore, you know, kind of like an 82 Bronco, but it is just for decoration at this point. Tires are pretty massive. So we have 315 millimeters of width. We have 70 series cross section on a 17-inch wheel. Boy, big tires. Take a look. We also have, you can see the turbocharger peeking in there from the passenger side bank. Don't get a good view here. Maybe we can crouch down. Absolutely massive aluminum lower control arms there. We have Fox internal bypass reservoir shocks, which are really the the jewel of the F-150 is the suspension tuning. So in addition to the other upgrades we've mentioned over the first gen Raptor, we also have more suspension travel front and rear. There you can see the external reservoir on the Fox shock here, and what that does is adds a little bit more volume to the overall system, helps with heat management, helps with the shock not fading when you're going over bumps at high speeds and really warming up the suspension components. It allows them to stay more constant and not pack down over time. Let's see, we've got a damped liftgate back here, and being an F-150, we've also got this nice step capability here. Let's go ahead and get this step to come out. There we go. Super handy for getting in and out of the bed. We have a factory installed bed liner option, which is cool, spring bed liner. Got Ford's modular system for mounting different racks and fixtures in the back of the truck. So you've got all the fun in the Raptor, but you're not compromising the overall usefulness of the pickup truck. So I can't overemphasize how useful these step systems are. Here, I'm doing it in the wrong order. We got to do 1, 2. It's easier to use than I'm making it out to be here. And 3. Go ahead, close that tailgate. Big beefy tow hooks back here. That's for getting you stuck, or more likely getting your buddies out of getting stuck, because they get a Raptor stuck, you really got to work at it. Also have nice big dual exhaust here. The original Raptor only had exhaust on one side of the rear end of the truck, so it's a aesthetic upgrade that I do like. We're gonna go ahead and pop the hood of this beast. There we go, Ford Performance, no longer calling it an SVT. 3.5 liter unit, twin turbochargers, one turbocharger for each bank. We've got a nice high mounted air intake system over here, so you can go through deep water, sand and whatnot, and not worry about your engine getting full of junk. Engine does the job you need it to do. It's a nice power plant. Got torque all over the place, not much lag, anything over about 2,000 RPM, and it really moves you with authority. So, full LED headlight treatment. We've also got the marker lights, which are required as the width of the Raptor is over 80 inches wide, unlike the regular F-150. So, it's a striking truck. I absolutely love this styling. I love the looks. I love the functionality. It is my favorite pickup. So let's go ahead and get inside. Nice step boards on the side here. They feel very substantial. Feel like they'd be up to some punishment, which they may encounter driving off-road. You're greeted with a Raptor splash screen there, Ford Performance. Nice gauge setup here. Very sporty, very legible. Nothing new from the updated F-150 and F-250. You know, all of the nice things that I like about those trucks are directly carried over into the Raptor. So I'm gonna go ahead, start it. Built Ford tough, of course. 3.5 liter rumbles to life. So let's get this out of the way. It's not a V8. It doesn't sound like a V8. People love the V8 sound. V6s can be hit or miss. This sounds good for a V6. It's just different. You have to align your expectations with the fact that it's not a V8. Not going to get that burble and that deep rumble you get out of the 6.2 liter. But it has its own charm. So they've done a really good job of tuning the induction noise on this turbocharger setup. So if you're at mid RPM and you kind of tip into the throttle a little bit, and the turbo spool and the boost builds, you get a really lovely induction noise as the turbos are doing their work. So I'm hoping that sound gets captured on the drive as we go through here. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the typical things here. The Sync 3 system is it's greatly improved. At this point it works decently well. There's sometimes, especially with navigation, when you're trying to navigate or you're trying to work around this map screen, that you can get a little bit confused on what you need to press in order to get back to a regular screen or get back to the marker following your path. But overall usability of the system is pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and hit the home button here. We've got your audio, we've got your climate, which is backed by physical knobs and buttons here. Phone settings. Radio usability is quite good. I like having a tune knob as well. We have a Sony branded premium audio system, which works pretty well. A little bit muddy, but it's got decent frequency response. It's got good bass. It's got good volume. It's not an audiophile level system, but I think you'll be able to rock some tunes in here as you're off-roading your Raptor and be pretty happy about it. Functionally, though, it's got some nice things. It's got 2 USB ports down here, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, of course. We've got our 4-wheel drive knob here, which you'll be well acquainted with. So typically you're going to be driving around in 2-wheel drive high. Unlike the previous Raptor, you cannot engage the rear locking differential in 2-wheel drive high. But you really don't need to, because it does have a limited slip type differential in the back. So even when it's not fully locked, you're still getting some locking capability when you're driving on the road. So 4 Auto, as I explained, is more of an all-wheel drive system that engages 4-wheel drive on demand. 4 High locks the center transfer case, which will appropriate 50-50 front and rear at all times, as does 4 Low with a reduced gear ratio overall on the transmission. So nice things. 420 watt inverter built right in. That's pretty sweet. We also have trailer backup mode, which you can actually steer your trailer via this knob here, steer the entire truck as you're backing up and monitoring the system here in the display. We'll test that functionality at some point. Just the Raptor is not we're focusing on other Raptor aspects, not the trailer towing in this review. So as with all of the modern Fords, the gauge cluster has a plethora of information that you can access via the center display here, as well as a very legible gauge system. I'm a big fan of these Ford gauges. They look good, they're functionally well laid out, and you've got all the information you need. Bunch of buttons here. You have your active cruise control settings on this side. You've got your steering wheel modes over here. You've got your driving modes for the Raptor, your normal, your sport, which sharpens up the throttle and transmission response. You've got your weather, which is well suited for snow and rain. You can see it switched to 4A. It actually put us right into the all-wheel drive quote-unquote mode. We can put it into mud or sand, which is going to take me down to 4 High. Also adjust the traction control and stability control as necessary, and it also locked the rear differential for me automatically. Baja mode is when you want to fly across the desert, so it's a little bit more of a high-speed, power-oriented mode. We're at 4 High. We've unlocked the rear differential. Last but not least, we have rock crawling. It's going to put me right into 4-wheel drive low, which does require a shift to neutral. But if you're going slow through a rock crawling type situation, it's going to set the car up for that. The throttle response is going to be appropriately progressive to help control yourself a little bit more in tricky off-road environments. And it's kind of nice how the whole car is integrated, the whole truck is integrated into these drive modes, and it knows exactly what the best setting is going to be for all of the systems. So selected terrain mode preconditions not met. Yeah, I didn't put it in neutral. I couldn't make it into 4 Low, so it's not going to be happy with that. So I'm going to put it back to normal. And we're going to go ahead and take this thing for a spin, because that's really what you guys are all waiting for here. So I really like the steering wheel. It's nice and chunky. It's got nice thumb recesses here. It's got nice magnesium shift paddles. Otherwise, ergonomically, it's pretty good setup. So let's put that 10-speed automatic into drive. I started this review near a gravel road just because I knew I'd want to play with this thing a little bit. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to turn that advanced track stability control completely off. Ten speeds, very close ratios, lots of performance, minimal lag from the engine, you're off the line and you're on your way. Steering response is actually pretty good, all things considered, considering the size of the truck, the sidewall of the tires. It has a sporty feel for a pickup. You've got a bit of crispness on turn-in, and the truck feels very responsive for what it is. Pavement ends. That's exactly the sign you want to see when you're out driving your Raptor. So this powertrain offers a lot of performance. It really gets up and goes. 0 to 60 time is quoted to be in the low 5s, which for a truck, this thing downright scoots. I think there'll be very little complaints in terms of overall performance of this powertrain package. And you can really feel it. The car kind of squats down, gets back on its haunches, and just wants to go. Just like that, we reached 60 miles per hour. So this review is going to focus more on the on-road usability of the Raptor. We will have a full review of this thing off-road, but if you're going to be driving this thing on the pavement, which, let's be honest, most people will spend most of their time driving these things in the real world, even if they play with it on the weekends when they can. And the civility and the usability of this truck is frankly, it's really impressive. So the massive suspension system, long travel, it really leads to a nice ride, and it doesn't feel like the brute that you kind of expect it to be. It's not a difficult truck to drive. It's not a difficult truck to manage, to maneuver. It has these driver assistance systems like the 360-degree top view camera, and it has front and rear cameras which are intelligently designed to come on when you're in different, let's say, off-road situations, and it knows the steepness of the terrain you're driving on, and it turns on the right camera just when you need to see out of the front or the rear. You can tell there's a lot of forethought put into this truck and how people are going to be using the truck under what conditions. Trying to demonstrate that lovely induction noise you get on high load throttle tip-in when you get about 20-30% throttle dialed in. There is a bit of fake piped in artificial generated noise from this engine, and it's kind of like the Fusion Sport we drove, and it's noticeable, but some people are going to be annoyed with it. I'm not personally bothered by it too much because the noise is pretty accurate in terms of what the truck sounds like from the outside. It's not totally fake noise. It's unrepresentative of how the truck sounds. But it'd be kind of nice if it could make its own noises, much like the V8 did. But, you know, this is the future. We will be focusing on lower displacement, downsized engines, and even in performance applications. So we have to live in this environment. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it 4 high here, or 4 auto, sorry. Make sure we get maximum traction. do a full 0 to 60 launch. Even with half of the truck on gravel, I expect it's still going to hook up quite nice. All right. Power brake. As I said, basically anytime you put your foot in it, 10 speeds will get you right into the perfect RPM for that EcoBoost engine to get up in its torque band and to accelerate very quickly. Downshifts are the same way. So 10th gear, right to 6th. Very little hesitation. Back into two-wheel drive high. Kind of a cool feeling when you're putting the power down in two-wheel drive and you can feel that massive rear axle back there and wheel and tire package just kind of shifting and undulating to get the power down to the pavement. It's got a little bit of bounciness, not in a bad way, but it just feels like a massive tool that you're wielding to to conduct a orchestra of chaos and awesomeness. Although a start-stop system feels a little bit out of place in a Raptor, I understand why they have to do it. But once again, not too many Raptor owners are interested in saving fuel. I don't think it's a feature the customers actually asked for. Now, I really think the biggest surprise with the new Ford Raptor is nothing to do with its off-road ability. I think people expect that it's going to be absolutely amazing off-road, and it really is. But the biggest surprise is just how livable and refined it is to use in normal driving. The ride quality is excellent, and the truck just doesn't feel as big as it looks or as big as it really is. It's just an easy truck to drive. And that super supple suspension with long travel and off-road tires, the BFG TA KO2s with huge sidewalls, it just eats up the road. And I live here in Michigan, where you can clearly see from my videos the quality of the roads out here leaves a lot to be desired. There's a lot of potholes, there's a lot of broken pavement, and I'm just amazed how well this thing drives out here. I mean, I guess if you think about it, you shouldn't be too surprised, but it's hard to believe that something that can be so capable off-road and in a harsh environment can also be friendly and livable on a daily basis. And combined with the 10-speed transmission and the EcoBoost engine, it just works really well. It's smooth, it's quiet, it's reasonably economical for what it is. And believe it or not, it's kind of fun to drive in the corners too. It has a unique handling characteristic. It's not as floppy and uncontrolled as you would think a vehicle with this kind of suspension travel would be. It's actually fun to kind of toss around in the corners. I'm going pretty slow right now, but if you get this thing out in some twisty roads, I mean, it's not a sports car. You're not carving corners with it, but it's simply fun to drive. And I think the bandwidth this car has, or this truck has, in terms of what you can have fun doing with this thing is it's just about unparalleled out there. All right, and this vehicle with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6 is also equipped with a start-stop system, which on a Raptor, honestly, I don't think any Raptor owner is going to be interested in saving fuel at idle. And it's an okay system, but it's not the best. It is it's a little bit obtrusive. So when the engine comes back on, there's a bit of a bump. There's a lot of starter noise. It is a system that I would be inclined to switch the off button right here and just keep the engine on. But it's there if you want to use it, if you want to save a little bit of fuel. In your Raptor, you have the option of utilizing the system. All right, since we're stuck behind traffic, it might as well take the opportunity to demonstrate the radar guided cruise control as well. So right here on the steering wheel, arm the system by pressing on, press the set button. Let's go ahead and set it at 50 miles per hour. Set our following distance. Believe it or not, you can just sit back and let your Raptor control its speed and its distance all by itself. As you can see, it's not a complete stop and go system for the radar guided cruise control. So as we came to a stop, the system beeped and disengaged, and the driver is ultimately responsible for stopping the vehicle and starting it again. The 10-speed automatic transmission really does a good job of keeping the 3.5 liter EcoBoost right in the meat of its power band. So this engine has quite a wide spread of torque. It doesn't have a lot of lag once you get it up to about 2,000 RPM. Onwards, it's got plenty of pull, and it doesn't have much of a taper at the top end either. So it really has a nice broad plateau of torque. And this transmission, you know, that's the biggest advantage of the 10 speeds, is you have enough ratios and they're closely spaced enough to just keep it in the sweet spot of the power band, especially downshifting. So basically, whatever speed you're at, when you punch it, it can pick a ratio that's going to put it right in the meat of the torque band, and it makes the truck feel that much more responsive. Fortunately, the transmission is decently adept and quick to downshift at any point. So sometimes when you have a lot of ratios, the transmission takes a while to downshift because it can't figure out quickly enough, or can't sort itself out quickly enough to put it in the right ratio on a downshift request. But this transmission does a pretty good job. So you can see we're in 9th gear right now, just loafing along, and I'm going to punch it. It just goes straight to 3rd. No hesitation at all. For a first generation of this transmission, or a new development, I'm pretty impressed. So typically when you have a new powertrain, right when it comes out, it may work well, but you're gonna discover minor issues with the programming and the logic, and every once in a while it'll do annoying things, and it usually takes auto manufacturers a model year or two to sort out the fine-tuning on new powertrains. But for a first effort, I think Ford's done a pretty good job with this, especially considering the performance and tension of this thing. You'll put up with any little idiosyncrasies that the setup has, which aren't too many. But while we're on that topic, manual mode could use some work. So we have this really nice shift paddles, but manual mode leaves a lot to be desired. The quickness in the downshift and upshift requests is not very good. There's definitely a lag. And the bummer is, if you ever kiss the rev limiter, the transmission takes a long time to recover. So here's first gear. I'm gonna go ahead and run it out. And if I'm a little slow on the upshift, okay, shift, wait, 1, 2, 3, and it finally shifts a second. So it holds gears to redline, which is fine, but the problem is if you shift just an instant too late and the truck ends up on that rev limiter, it takes a long time for the next upshift request to register and the truck to actually upshift again. So the manual mode ends up ultimately not being all that useful. Let's do it again. Redline. I'm just sitting there waiting for the truck to upshift. Anyway, as I was saying, the manual mode ends up being not all that useful because the truck does a better job of managing the upshifts all by itself. You know, you can use the manual capability. Let's say if you're off-roading and you want to downshift preemptively to engine brake down a steep hill, but in terms of straight line acceleration, there's really nothing to be gained by using the manual mode selection. So Ford could go back and revise that a little bit and make it a little bit more useful in a performance sense. If they could improve the timing of the manually requested upshifts and downshifts, it could add some improvement to the manual capability. But honestly, the transmission does a great job when left to its own devices, and when it chooses to shift by itself. That I don't see that as a huge drawback. It'd be nice if they would change it, but the transmission does a great job when you just leave it in drive. So steering, in addition to the steering modes, or in addition to the overall driving modes, you also have 3 levels of steering feel. So right now it's on normal. Sport kind of firms it up a little bit, doesn't feel like it changes the overall ratio at all. And comfort, makes it a little bit easier to steer, so that it turns up the steering assist. Personally, I like it on normal. I'm just fine with that. It's a really good balance between steering heft, steering feel, effort, and considering the massive componentry and wheel and tire that you have out front on that front axle, it has pretty good steering feel. It does a good job of feeling responsive and giving you a little bit of feedback. And that feedback usually is a feeling of absolutely massive wheels and tires up front just getting pounded when you're just blasting through the ruts off-road. And it makes you feel like Ivan Stewart, but, you know, I guess that's the whole point, right? Driving this thing really makes you feel like a superhero, because it's just so it's just so badass. So the Raptor comes equipped with BFG TA KO2 tires, which, in my personal opinion, are the best all-around truck tires in existence. So I personally have run these tires on a number of trucks, including my own, and they give you just an awesome blend of general off-road capability. They work great in the snow, they work great in the sand, and they are much better on the road than you'd expect looking at them. So they look pretty aggressive, they look pretty tough, but they're still pretty smooth and quiet. You can drive them out in the highway and it's not vibrating, it's not loud and buzzing. You know, it's a little bit of elevated tire noise compared to a regular car, but it's much more reasonable than you expect. And they actually last a long time too, if you're not, you know, beating on them too hard as I have been this past week. They are by far my favorite truck tire. Now there are some caveats. It's not the tire you want to use if you do a lot of mud, because the tread will pack down with mud and it doesn't work that well at that point. But generally, if you go to a mud-oriented tire, it's going to be much poorer driving in snow, on the road, in the wet, etc. So that's really the only drawback of the KO2s, is they're not a good mud tire. But anything else, so dry off-roading, sand, snow. In fact, they're a severe service winter-rated tire. So even though it's not, you know, it's not like a winter tire like a Blizzak, it is, I would say, 80 or 90% is capable in most wintertime conditions as a full snow tire. So in terms of a tire that you can use all year round in your truck, that looks good, that drives good, look no further than the KO2, and Ford knows it's what they put in the Raptor. It's absolutely a fantastic tire. No complaints at all there. And when you get them this big on the Raptor, once you get them spinning or sliding, it makes a really cool howl. So you're just, it's a fun tire to push around. Man, it's fun to zing this engine through the revs. There's something to be said about short gearing that's tightly spaced. It really adds to the enjoyment of just, you know, pointing and shooting the car around town. A lot of high-performance cars these days are getting longer and longer gearing, which I understand the technical reasons why they do it. When you have an extremely high-powered, especially rear-wheel drive car, you can't give it super short gearing, otherwise you're going to have major traction issues. But when you have something that's shortly geared, and you can just run it through the gears and get through third gear, you know, by 70 miles an hour, it's a good feeling. It adds to the visceral experience of driving the car. So I intentionally chose this route today. It's got pavement that's in absolutely terrible condition, and it's almost humorous how well this thing eats up the road. It just floats along. So you have that initial bit of travel from the suspension that really takes the hard edges off of everything. And if you live in Detroit, man, this is a thing to have. This is the ride you want. And to be honest, I'm starting to warm up a little bit to the V6 exhaust note. I think they've done a good job of doing the best they can. V6 turbo engines are really hit and miss in terms of exhaust notes. Some of them sound pretty good, some of them sound not that great under full load. Be interested to see how these sound once people start putting aftermarket exhausts on them. People will have to be careful that they don't end up with a raspy system or a system that has a lot of drone, as V6s can often have when you go to an aftermarket exhaust system. The V8 is, of course, nice. 6.2 was a great sounding engine. But if the lack of V8 is the only thing holding you back from the new Raptor, I think that's a mistake. Let's go ahead and take this nice sweeping corner here at speed. Oh, yeah. Oh, this truck would get me in so much trouble. So here's that smooth highway ride I was telling you about. You get it up at 10th gear and just let it loaf along. There's a little bit of wind noise, but it's not too bad. The tire noise isn't bad either. You could really take this car comfortably on longer trips. I keep calling it a car. It's kind of an insult to the Raptor. It's definitely a truck. So bottom line, what do I think of the 2017 Ford Raptor? I'm gushing over this thing, and for good reason. I love this truck. I think all of the improvements Ford has made to the latest generation of F-150, the electronic and driver assistance upgrades, the aluminum body structure, stiffer chassis, they've taken that all and translated it over to the Raptor, taken the proven formula of the first generation Raptor, added some improvements, better suspension, better capability, more robust powertrain, and this is a recipe for success. This truck does exactly what Ford wants it to do while having a bandwidth that allows it to be comfortable and smooth and livable, and it's really not a one-trick pony. You need to understand the limitations of a truck this big. This is not a truck that's going to go chasing Jeep Rubicons in tight backwoods off-roading situations. This is a truck you want to get out in the sand dunes, in the desert, in more open off-roading situations, rough roads, rough terrain, or just hooning around because this thing just loves to roost. I love the truck. I love the usability. I love the fact that you can still drive it daily and have it be comfortable and reasonably efficient and smooth. And you can just take it on the weekends and beat the snot out of it, and it's not going to complain at all. It is a hooning machine. So there are a few drawbacks. You know what? I want to get this clover leaf here kind of fast, so we'll finish up this review in a second. There's that howl I was telling you about. Brake pedal is a little spongy in terms of driving dynamics. That's another minor complaint, is that the braking feel isn't all that great. You get a little bit of sponginess at the top of the pedal. If Ford could tighten up that brake pedal feel a little bit, make it a little bit firmer and more progressive, this thing would be darn near perfect dynamically. But it's pretty close. So in any case, the mixture of driving performance and usability, quality, ruggedness, image, everything, it is definitely one of my all-time favorite vehicles, and I am dying to get a chance to get one for myself. So that's it, man. Raptor's awesome. if you have the means, I highly recommend you check it out. So, Chris Osberg here, Winding Road Magazine. Really enjoyed doing this review for you guys. If you like the reviews, if you like the point of view drives, if you like the content, please subscribe. Check out my personal channel, and we'll be bringing more to you. So thanks for watching. Tune in next time, and talk to you later. See ya.